when you're chasing money, it never works out. It's like when you stop, then it can come to you.
Welcome to the Empowerista podcast, female entrepreneurs finding freedom and fulfillment in their life and career. I'm your host, Alex Worley, the founder and CEO of Empowerista, an award-winning producer and national TV host, seen on platforms like Business Rockstars, Entrepreneur.com, and Amazon Prime. I am so excited to share my candid conversations with successful women, amazing women, as I reveal the tips and truths they've learned on their entrepreneurial journey. My guest today is Brittney Castro, the founder and CEO of Financially Wise Inc., a Los Angeles-based financial planning firm with a mission to teach the art of managing money the fun and simple way. She is a go-to resource for national media outlets, including Entrepreneur.com, and you are going to love her tips on helping female entrepreneurs thrive financially. So let's talk about money.
Let's do it. Money.
Fun topic. So people give money so many different meanings.
Yes.
A lot of them positive, a lot of them negative. So before we even dive into best practices for spending, saving, earning money, let's talk about some of those obstacles when it comes to even just talking about money. Maybe if you could dive into what are some of those mindsets that are preventing women from really planning their financial future, and just primary obstacles.
Yeah. Well, mindset is an interesting thing because we all have a specific upbringing and a unique personality and different mindset beliefs. So I think when it comes to money, women in particular, I've seen just over the course of 14 years doing what I do, tend to bring just a lot more self-judgment into the picture. Like, for example, a lot of women will feel guilty if they spend too much or feel bad if they don't have a certain amount saved, or maybe they don't understand their 401k or retirement, so they feel like shame or bad around it, like they should have that together by now or they should know it. And these are smart, successful women, and that's just the way it goes. And what I always like to say is money is an energy, money is a tool, money is a learned subject. So most of us don't get an education around personal finances growing up. I mean, we could talk about that all day long, right? The education system doesn't provide that. Simple things like budgeting or opening up a savings account or how to invest for retirement. So at some point when you're an adult, you have to decide, oh, hey, it's time for me to learn this, and where can I go learn it in a way that I feel empowered and inspired to do what I need to do to make it better. And nowadays, I just think with the internet, there's so many choices and information out there, but also I think then it makes it even more important to find a professional or team of professionals who can help you, because a lot of times I think now one of the biggest roadblocks is people just thinking they're too busy. I'm too busy. I don't have time. So they kind of just keep pushing it away, when in reality, when you invest even an hour of your time to just get started, you'll see there's a benefit to that. And then you begin to continue that movement and taking care of your finances and learning about it and doing the things you need to do to feel good and feel like you have the right mindset with money.
I love that you said money is like a tool. That's how I see it as well. And it can be a tool to give you more freedom, more time to help you accomplish your goals. Can you tell me a little bit about how you see it as a tool?
Yeah, definitely. Very similar. I think also being an entrepreneur, I have always seen, money gives me this ability to create a life as I want to. Maybe not always easy, but when you think, I have a tool, and if I make money, if I earn money, I get to decide where do I put that. Do I invest it in myself, in my spiritual growth, in a business, in travel, in where I decide to live? Like, what is it that I want to use this tool for? And, I've been through times in my own journey where I wasn't using the tool in alignment with what I said I wanted, right? And then you could see, oh, there's a disconnect. Why not? And I think that's when people really, if you don't see it as a tool, I think then you could easily fall into that victim mentality, especially with money. There's a lot of people who say, oh, I didn't learn it growing up, or, this is just how it always is, or we don't have money for that. And then they kind of just settle instead of figuring out, oh, interesting. Why is it always this way? How can I change it if I don't like it? And what do I need to do to make this tool better for me?
Yeah, and almost having a relationship with money that's by default versus by design. And I think one thing that as humans, we're human, and at the most human basic level, we want to feel love and to feel like we belong. And I think a lot of times people spend money from that place of like, I need, the fanciest car that's going to like prove my worth. And there's nothing wrong with obviously having a nice car if that's something that you want and value, and it's coming from that place versus, I'm trying to prove something. But I guess what I'm getting at is, I think coming from that place of design and intentionality of spending and earning according to your values is just more powerful. So what's like the first step toward building our financial future that's more by design?
Well, I think the first step is to clearly assess where you're at right now and what goals you have for yourself. And it doesn't have to be the typical buy a home, or retire by 60. It's really figuring out, okay, what's going on? How much money is coming in every month? Where am I spending it? Looking at your bills, looking at your expenses, which is often very difficult for people. That's where a lot of people just tend to avoid. They don't want to know. They don't want to see. But I think once you look, you can think, oh, if I don't like what I see, then I can actually make the changes, right? But if you don't really know, you're kind of just like doing that guessing game, and that actually weighs on you more than getting in there and seeing in black and white what the reality is. Once you assess like income, expenses, look at, okay, how much do you have in your savings account? How much debt might you carry? What are your investment accounts? Do you even have investments? What insurance policies do you own? Is that right for you at this stage of life? And then you can map out your goals. What is it that you want? Maybe you want a cash cushion of a certain amount of money because that will help you sleep at night, or if something happened in your business or your job, you have enough money to get you through a few months. Or maybe you want to really tackle student debt or debt that you have and get that done in 2 years. Or maybe you really do want to buy a home or some sort of investment property. So how is that going to work? What does it look like? What kind of down payment would you need? Maybe you do want to have, retirement or financial independence at a certain age. So how much income does that mean per year? And how are you going to accumulate enough money to pay yourself that amount or create enough income streams to create that amount for yourself? So it really is putting a plan together. Financial planning is what I do, and that's, I think, really a necessity, not a luxury. A lot of times people say, oh, I have to wait till I get to a certain level financially and then I'll get a plan. But really, you should always have some sort of plan. And then you live your life and do your best and figure it out. And life's going to throw you curveballs, and then you got to figure out that. And every year you have to assess, and what are the goals? What's changed this year in income or expenses? And you keep doing this. So it's not a one-time thing either. It's ongoing, just like your life is ongoing. And so financial planning is really, I think, the best place to start if you've never done it.
Yeah, and I think it's a catch-22 sometimes for people where they feel like I'm not in a good financial place, so therefore I don't want to create a financial plan. I don't feel like I'm ready for that yet, but yet then they're just going to stay stuck in that place. So can you maybe speak to how sometimes you need to spend money to make money, and certainly, if nothing else, just coming up with a plan will make you more intentional and undoubtedly will positively impact your financial future?
I agree, and I think sometimes it really comes down to your risk tolerance too. I talk a lot about that, especially for business owners. Everybody has a certain risk appetite. So what might work for me might not work for you. And you just have to know yourself. Are you willing to just go for it and take that big risk? Or do you want to plan and maybe carry a job until your business makes enough income to support you fully? Both are options. It's okay, whatever option you choose, but to get clear about, what does that look like? So a lot of businesses require capital, right, to get started. You need money to start. So are you going to take from your own cushion, your own money? Are you going to finance and get a loan? Are you going to get private investors? What does that look like? Really like you said, mapping out a plan and figuring out what would make the most sense for you and also your risk appetite. And then just know that and know that's what you're choosing to do.
Yeah, let's talk more about the entrepreneurial journey and start from the beginning when a person likely is getting paid by somebody else and making that transition from maybe a 9-to-5 to entrepreneurship. And there are lots of different schools of thought of how to best approach it. And it sounds like you're saying there's not a one-size-fits-all. How does a person make that decision for themselves, knowing whether or not they should stay in the 9-to-5 until they can be financially independent in their business versus burning the boats and, being more high risk and saying, I'm just going to go for it and I'm going to make it financially happen? And I'm sure there's a lot of in between, but how does someone approach making that decision for themselves?
I really think it's knowing yourself, self-discovery. I mean, I know for me, I did more of the leap, scenario. But before this so I started this company 6 years ago. Before that, I did another leap from a company to an independent firm. And at that transition time, I actually did. I had a cushion. I had enough, going. So for a few years, I wasn't worried about income. But then when I made this next leap, I knew I was starting a bigger business, more capital. And so I was a little bit more of a risk taker. Now I'm at a different stage of my life where I'm a little bit different in my risk appetite with certain things. I've had friends, very successful business owners who really worked a 9-to-5 and hustled like day and night, weekends to get their other business up and running. And after a year, it was making enough money to sustain their personal goals and expenses where they could fully quit the job, and she felt comfortable doing that. So it really just depends, and you have to know what's going to serve you. But I do think at the end of the day, an entrepreneur is really somebody who goes after and creates something. So there is a level of at some point you have to leap. You don't really ever know how it's going to work out, and it always goes in all these different twists and turns, but eventually you get somewhere, and also I think if you overanalyze something, it just also makes it too difficult. Sometimes, I know just from my own journey, a lot of times I just said, oh yeah, sure, I'll try it and see if I like it. And then I did. And then the next thing came, and it was kind of like that. It wasn't where I am today. I would have never have guessed, when I was graduating college, this is what I would do and how all these twists and turns would lead me here. And you can't, that's how life is. You can't plan everything.
And I think asking yourself, does pressure serve you or not? Some people do really, really well under the pressure and it motivates them to make things happen. And some people, it doesn't. They don't like operating under pressure. They like having the pressure off, knowing that they're still going to be able to pay their bills and therefore they can just organically build their business. But it all comes back to, it sounds like what you were saying, and that's just self-discovery and knowing yourself how you're going to operate best.
Hey, super quick, if this episode is inspiring you, I'd be so very grateful if you did any or all of the following. Subscribe to the podcast, review the podcast, or take a screenshot of this episode and post it to your Instagram stories, and be sure to tag @Empowerista so I can share your post. Your support seriously means so much and will allow me to continue making episodes. Lastly, if you'd like to read the key points from today's interview, head to empoweristapodcast.com for show notes.
So another thing with entrepreneurship is all of a sudden you don't have this ceiling on what you can make, which can sometimes work for you or against you. But obviously we want it to work for entrepreneurs. Yes. But I think it can be a shock sometimes that first year or two, you're not always going to match maybe the salary that you were coming from or make as much as you want to. So any insight on that and, what a person can do to prepare themselves those first few years and get to their goal of what they want to make as quickly as possible?
Honestly, get clear about what the number is. I know that sounds so basic, but I'm telling you, most people don't really know what income they truly want. And what's the income that's going to give them the lifestyle that they're looking for. I think a lot of people just have these pie-in-the-sky numbers like, I want to make $1 million. And it's like, well, maybe you actually don't need $1 million to live the life you want, right? And you're just trying to say I want $1 million, So it's really getting clear about how much money do you need every year to live the life that you want. And that might be a goal that you're at now. It might be a goal that you're working toward, but at least if you have this idea, 250,000, $1 million, 100,000, whatever.
And are you saying like that person's salary?
Like net income,
Yeah.
income that you're paying yourself from this business. Then you could reverse engineer and figure out, okay, if I want to make, let's say, 120,000 net income per year from my business, what does that mean? How much do I then need to make gross revenue from my business to cover overhead, to cover taxes, to distribute this amount, and, keep kind of the lifestyle that I'm looking for? And you're probably not going to figure it out in day one, like what that recipe is going to look like. And if the recipe works for a few years, it might not be working for ever as well. So it's also an evolution, because products and services change, and maybe one thing might really work in a few years, and then somehow, that doesn't happen anymore. That line of revenue doesn't come in for you. So I think as an entrepreneur, also thinking about, and anyone really in this world, how do you create multiple streams of income? We've all heard that before, but really, some of us are service-based. How can you launch a product? Or if you're a product-based, how can you launch a service? Or can you start getting some real estate in your portfolio that would produce, income down the road, maybe not right away? And how are you investing in the stock market, to create that type of portfolio? So there's all these different avenues you can choose, but really thinking through, okay, what's bringing me the money right now? Focus on that for sure. And then, maybe every year add something different or add something new. And you still have to, I always think it's like a farm, right? You have to harvest and plant seeds and nurture and then go, and it's kind of like
that
this.
Analogy, yeah.
And as a woman, I think that's also very natural, to nurture and help things grow and bring energy. So when we really, I know when I tap into that space, I make a lot of money. When I'm trying to be more masculine, grinding and hustling and stressing, I'm pushing it away. It's so obvious when I do that. So it's actually when I'm more relaxed and I'm just doing my natural thing, but working, that then it works.
So you're being intentional, but you're just kind of trusting that it's going to happen. And, of course, taking action accordingly.
Yeah, yeah. Trust is huge.
Yeah, which I think can be really scary for people when it comes to money.
It really is scary, but when you really think about it, when you can get in that energy of knowing you're always going to be okay, you'll always figure it out, somehow the money will always come, it almost puts you in a whole different consciousness level that you're not even thinking about the money, and actually that's what money loves. When
really? Well, and you've seen a lot of people and their money stories. Yeah. So in your experience, you've seen time and time again that money just kind of flows when you relax.
Yeah, when you're chasing money, it never works out. It's when you stop, then it can come to you.
Yeah, I've heard a lot of people say that money is an exchange of value, and so I would imagine if you're coming from this place of pushing, it's coming from more of a needy place of totally what's needy in it for me. I want to receive, but I think especially as entrepreneurs, when we give and we give value in the form of product or service, and all of a sudden it's that exchange of value where money comes back around.
Totally.
So let's talk about keeping our finances clean. And I know that this is something that you teach through your online education and as a financial planner, but as an entrepreneur, all of a sudden, we don't just have a clean, one personal checking account and credit card. All of a sudden, it gets a lot more complicated and, hopefully it's separate, but not always the case. So give us the 101. And if you're going to start anywhere with just kind of keeping things clean and separate, where to begin as an entrepreneur?
For sure, what you just said, open up a business account, business checking account, and keep that separate from your personal checking, and run all the business income and expenses through that as much as you can, right? I know sometimes, it might be impossible to do that, but really that helps you, in my mind, confirm that you're a business owner. You're now a legit business owner. And then also it'll just help you with these numbers that I talked about. Like if you know, over here I have personal expenses of $4,000 per month or whatever it might be, then you can operate your business to make sure like that money's coming over. But the more separated it is, I think the easier it is, even though it's an extra thing to manage, to plan and kind of figure out what's working or what's not working. And like I said, there's going to be times where maybe for a few years something worked really well, and then you have to pivot and change. And coming back to this system will really bring you that clarity that you need to then find the solution to then make it work again.
Awesome. Let's talk about Financially Wise Inc. First of all, what is it and what was the inspiration behind starting it?
Sure. So it's my financial planning firm. So we do financial planning for clients. A lot of them are high-income earners, business owners. We help them budget, plan, save, just really understand their money, which we take a lot of time to educate and empower. It's not just, hey, Alex, buy this insurance product, or hey, Alex, roll over your money and we'll manage it. It's about, here's how that works in the relationship to the rest of your goals, to the things you're working on. Here are the areas of opportunity. Here's what we can do to make it work better. So we really get in there with strategy, and then obviously, help educate our clients, because at the end of the day, it's your money. It's your decision. We're just here to help. So that's one service. I have online courses. I have a money class. It's a 6-week online course just to teach personal finance. So this was a way to help people who maybe couldn't afford our financial planning services, but still really liked what we stood for and, the way that I teach money. I also created a new product to help people overcome money anxiety, just turn money anxiety into money ease. So just like a 10-step approach, just through the experience of working with thousands of people, different things you can do if you have money anxiety. I also work with brands. So like I was working with Chase for a while, Investopedia, just brands as a quote-unquote spokeswoman to help educate their communities about financial education, and that was really, it's just an extension. I think at the end of the day, we are a financial planning firm, but it's also a financial education company that I run. So whether I'm speaking or there's a course, I'm working one-on-one, that the root of it all is empowering and educating people.
Yeah, give me a little insight into building this business behind the scenes, behind the curtain, and really what was the inspiration?
So I started it. I was at a company right out of college, and I did financial planning there for 5 years, and I did really well. But I also learned at that time that I had a lot of ideas myself that I wanted to launch. So I left and went to an independent company and rebranded myself, started a blog called Financially Wise Women, and I just wanted to really talk about money from a woman's perspective and help more women who are successful and smart, or maybe going through transition, like a divorce or even getting married for the first time, or just like high income earners and not really certain what to do with their money. And then a few years after that, I started this company. So the evolution, like I said, I would have never have guessed, but I always had a vision to have my own business, and this is what it ended up being. Mm-hmm. But as an entrepreneur, I've been through it all too. I'm not, I think there's no day that there's not a certain challenge. You just get better at dealing with the challenges, and that's part of the job. When you sign up to be an entrepreneur or founder or CEO of a company, you just have to deal with it. And I've really learned a lot about myself, like during those hard times, because there's been difficult times for sure in the journey, whether it's just financially getting to a level that I want it to get to, or even, hiring or firing people is not always easy, or just managing clients and the growth of clients, and then the workload and management of a team. There's been many times where I'm like, I don't know if I could do it. And you do. And then you get through it, and then you realize, oh, okay, I got through that challenge. And then the next one comes. They're like,
you get more confidence.
I got through this challenge. Yeah. And you really I've learned so much about myself and the tenacity and perseverance it takes to really accomplish, I think anything in life worthwhile, like whether it's a good relationship or having a good company or just doing work you love. Life takes work, but it's also like what I've learned, and I'm still trying to do it more and more. I'm way better at it, but it's like really having as much fun as possible because there is no destination. Is also what I figured out.
Yeah.
Like
you never arrive.
No, you never arrive. Like you hit a success or you hit a milestone and you're like, okay, great. So it's learning to find the happiness
between the milestones.
Yes. Because otherwise it's like not fully living.
Yeah, and it helps you get to the next milestone, I think, too.
Yeah.
So as you've reached different financial milestones, what has been your money mindset? What's really, really helped you get to the next level?
When I focus on giving, I really am like the most powerful in general when I just feel in a state of giving and connecting, like you said, and sharing who I am. Then I'm not really thinking, I'm not worried, I'm not like stressed, I'm not in like the future. I'm more just confident giving. So I think that mindset, especially with money, anytime I feel like, I'm these goals are uncertain about something, and I'll just think, okay, wait, how can I just give something, right? Give a value, whether it's friends, family, clients, team, whoever it is, then I immediately connect back to this like, okay, cool, everything's going to be okay, because it's like it
feels good to give.
It feels
and then
so
when you're in this
good.
Space of feeling good, I think, as you were saying, you attract things to you.
And that giving and receiving is so cyclical.
Yeah. And I know that you said you did have to overcome a few money mindset obstacles. One being, are you going to be as relatable, or like what are guys going to potentially think when you get to that really ultra successful, financially place? How did you overcome that and give us some insight into it?
Well, thank God I have a great group of friends and family who love me, and like a spiritual community that really helps me like with anything that I'm going through. But I think for me, I just finally realized, if I'm just fully me, the right people will want to be around that. Mm-hmm. And if the person, like any person, man or woman, but anyone has a problem and wants to like contain me living at my full potential.
It's not the right person to be in your life.
Not the right person. But it took me a while, because I used to hear years ago, you're so intimidating, you're powerful, you're smart, you have all these things. And I thought, I would do this thing with that word where, oh God, that's so negative. I can't be intimidating to people. And then I started to realize, so what? Like, what am I going to not live who I am? That's not good. That's not a good approach to life. And if this is how I am, I can learn how to be with different people for sure. But also, if I'm not being just me, I'm not going to be happy. And that doesn't help anybody.
Yeah, and there are plenty of guys and girls looking for friends who are really attracted to that kind of woman that is powerful financially and in every way. And so by having that attitude, you're just going to attract those type of people into your life.
Yeah.
I'm sure already have. Yeah.
I finally figured that one out.
Yeah.
It took me a while.
Yeah. Where can people keep up with you?
Yeah, just come over to financiallywiseinc.com. Check out our services. You can also come and follow me on Instagram, Brittney Castro. Yeah, I'm always around, like anytime we get messages, whether it's through the website, email, or social media, we respond. So.
Awesome. Brittney, thank you so much for your time.
Thanks, Alex.
Well, that's it for today's show. As a reminder, show notes are available at empoweristapodcast.com, and I would be so grateful if you'd subscribe, review, or share this podcast. Thank you so much for listening, and have an amazing week.